getting to your first like handful of customers is a very hacky, I always imagine someone in the jungle with a machete. It's founder led, they're sweaty, they're doing things that don't scale. It's tiring, it's repetitive, but it works because they get to a point where they've built up that muscle. They know exactly who they're going after.
This is Alistair, and welcome back to the Venture Variety Show. This is a podcast where I talk with founders, investors, and operators about how startups and the stories around them get built. Today, I'm joined by Scott Sage, co-founder of Crane Venture Partners, an early-stage firm focused on data, AI infrastructure, and developer tools. Scott and I dig into what real platform support looks like, how AI is changing startups and venture firms, and he has some practical advice for founders on winning their first customers. So let's get into it and say hello to Scott.
Good evening from the UK. How are you, Alistair?
I'm doing great, and good morning from the San Francisco Bay Area. You just said it, you're based in the UK. Tell us who you are and where you are and what you do.
Yes, apologies if I have some English mannerisms. I didn't grow up here. I'm originally from Texas and only moved to the UK when I was 22, so that was 20 years ago. Originally came here for what I thought was going to be a one-year gig, and that turned into another job, which led me to a startup and then venture. But I now live in the southwest of England with my wife and kids, and co-founded a company called Crane Venture Partners 10 years ago. And we are pre-seed and seed investors investing across Europe and the US. Since day one, we've been really thematically focused on all things data, AI, infrastructure, and deep tech. And we're a team of nearly 20 people in London, and we'll have some other exciting things to talk about with our expansion later in the year.
And you didn't say it, but where do you invest? Where primarily geographically are your companies?
Predominantly UK, Germany, France, Switzerland, and then the core hubs in the US. So we have quite a few portfolio companies also in New York and San Francisco. We're currently investing out of our third fund. So we're averaging somewhere around, in the last two funds, 30 to 35 investments per fund. And at the current rate, we'll probably be closer to the maybe 12 or even 13 number this year, just given how active the markets are and how many people are leaving big tech and pre-IPO companies to go start their own company or the AI research labs.
Talk to a lot of venture firms, and I hear from a lot of entrepreneurs. It seems to me like the founders, the entrepreneurs expect not only that venture firms will invest in them, but also provide platform services. Do you find that that's the case as well? That it's not only a nice to have, it's a must to
It's a have to
provide.
have.
It's a have to have for
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
portfolio.
I think founders are obviously looking for capital. They're looking for partners who are going to support them through thick and thin. They really want partners who understand their business, ideally understand the end market with which they're selling into, and as a bonus, can make early introductions to customers, hires, channel partners further down the line. When we designed Crane from day one, we were very thematically focused on all things data and AI. All of the founders in our portfolio, we're nearing 70 portfolio companies. They're all selling into, whether it's Fortune 2000, mid-market, or SMB, they're selling products into those companies. They need to learn how to position them, the products, the company. They need to learn how to sell them. So go through founder-led sales and then build the early go-to-market teams. And they need to learn how to renew and upsell those customers. You can't expect a really technical founder who's been building AI products at DeepMind or has been a level whatever software engineer at Google or Salesforce to be perfectly formed the day you invest into them. They're probably really good at creating products. They're probably going to be really good out of the bat recruiting people and being inspirational because they understand the customer problem, but you can't expect them to know how to market, sell, and do all the other things around go-to-market. No one is that well-rounded or perfect. We have a pretty extensive platform team. We are not reactive like I guess some firms are. When shit hits the fan, they'll send someone in, they'll try and find an expert in the market to go and help the co-founder or the CEO work through the problem. We can kind of anticipate that something's going to happen because we've seen the movie before, and we can roll out one of our partners who are world-class experts in building software companies in their domains and help preempt the problem before it happens. We'll roll out one of our partners who can then help them with whatever the issue is, sales qualification or defining ICP or, putting renewals into place well in advance of something expiring in 1 week's time. So that's kind of our kind of very high level view of how we see the platform work.
How does Crane Venture Partners define its platform services for the entrepreneurs? What do you tell them that you provide?
So day one, it's we're their go-to-market partner. So we're helping them with the first thing is typically their positioning and corporate positioning. So how customers can understand what it is they do. Let's take the Microsoft engineer who's been there it's their first job out of university. They studied computer science. They've been writing code for 6 years and then they start a company. They're not going to really have the instincts on how to sell somebody. And selling, in our opinion, day one, when you're trying to close your first customer, isn't necessarily about the outcomes. It's framing the problem and it's framing it next to current tools that the customer is using. And most first-time founders want to go in with feature, super technical. I want to explain everything that we've built. And so that's kind of like earning permission to go to the next phase with the next set of customers, or indeed with that customer, before you can even really enter into a real sales process. And so that's what we're trying to coach and teach these founders, is how to position their products. And then eventually, once they're at a point where they know exactly what problem they're solving and have demonstrated that with customers and have anecdotal value being created with customers, then you can start to kind of ramp it up a little bit. And that's where we think about, how do you do sales? How do you do outbound? How do we optimize marketing for inbound to get the entire flywheel working for that company?
Based on your work over the last 10 years or so, do you think there's a difference between how a European venture firm provides platform services compared to a US firm of like the same size? Is it comparable, or are there differences?
I haven't seen a huge difference. I think the early stage firms, I'll talk about only the seed funds,
Sure.
in the US definitely are more mature than the seed firms here in Europe. I think that's a function really of time and assets under management. Obviously, with larger funds or more funds, you can afford more talent to help founders. So I don't think there's a lack of willingness from the European funds to do it. I think just some of them are still emerging, funds one or fund two, and all of their management fee is being spent on investing partners. With regards to being more specialist, I don't know anyone in Europe that has created the kind of platform team that we have that is focused kind of solely on the kinds of companies that we invest into, these AI first data infrastructure developer focused companies.
One thing I've been coming across here in the US, talking to founders, is many of them are using AI agents to, want to stay lean, to help with efficiency. Are you coming across that in Europe as well with the seed stage companies using?
Completely.
Yeah.
Yes. So I think across our portfolio, I'll bias this answer more towards the companies that are still at pre-seed seed, not the later stage companies. Those that are still, let's say, fewer than 10 or 20 employees, definitely like they're building faster than ever before. They're on just total escape velocity with using all the AI powered programming tools. And we're seeing some incredible things coming through on even meta tools replacing machine learning engineers. We're seeing tools that the companies are using there. What we're not seeing at the earliest stages are go-to-market sales and marketing AI assisted tools. Getting to your first handful of customers is a very hacky, I always imagine someone in the jungle with a machete. It's founder led, they're sweaty, they're doing things that don't scale. It's tiring, it's repetitive, but it works because they get to a point where they've built up that muscle. They know exactly who they're going after. And at that point, I think they can really start to leverage a lot of the sales and marketing AI tools, where sales enrichment for qualifying leads or notifying you of potential churn issues with customers, those are radically going to transform how go-to-market teams look in the future. I think, unfortunately, they're going to be much leaner teams, but they'll be more productive. They'll have a lot more insights and they can provide more value to customers.
This has got to be the next service offering of platforms, right? AI
Well, that's
assistants, go to
interesting.
market. What's that?
I think that it's a fascinating idea. I've not heard of anyone offering that yet. Right before this, I was on a call with a couple of serial entrepreneurs who were just in the process of leaving their respective companies, and they showed me a couple of features that I think every single VC firm would want to have, which is going to make anyone who manages money in venture radically more efficient, and it can
Mm.
automate a lot of the back office and fund administration side. So VC is not immune from even being disrupted from AI. It's already happening.
How is that affecting your communications with the portfolio, with potential founders as well as who's in the portfolio? How's that impacting you?
I'd say we're still in the wild west of adoption. I think every small firm is testing various tools. Lots of people, if they have technical members of staff, are building internal tools. A lot of that code probably gets thrown away when it gets pushed into production and no value is created. So I think everyone's in that kind of experimenting phase still. I just see it making everyone so much more efficient. I now use Gemini, so Google's LLM,
Right.
for one of my quarterly pieces of workflow that used to take me kind of a day and a half roughly every quarter. I did it yesterday in probably 4 hours in total. And that's just one recurring use case. So you can see across every organization, every team, every individual, in any kind of enterprise setting, how their roles will become so much more efficient. But that's where we're still in this great unknown of what the contours and the kinds of enterprises will look like in the future. We have no idea.
And if I can add my observation here. So I talk to a lot of founders, a lot of investors, and when you think about AI's impact on venture, it's not just, hey, we're going to find, a diamond in the rough type of thing. It's not just, you know, uncovering a hidden gem of a company that no one saw before and investing in it and it becoming a unicorn. What I'm hearing more is what you just talked about. It's more investors and their teams using tools to be more efficient, as you say, cut down the time it takes to deliver reports. It's using tools to analyze meetings like this and meetings with founders. That is almost the future of VC. It's just efficiency and putting everything through an LLM of some kind, whether it's your own or whether you buy it.
I wouldn't be surprised, Alistair, if in the future there are firms managing upwards of a few $1 billion on behalf of LPs where there are two investing principals and maybe no back office, maybe no juniors. I don't think that'll be the model for everybody, but I think some could pull that off. Obviously there's no concept of a platform team there, but again, maybe they'll design it in a way where they're adding value in their own way through other tools that we haven't dreamt up yet.
Yeah, in this future that we're talking about, is there value for entrepreneurs to work with a firm like that? Or do they, I mean, what, if I can say this about you, Scott, you're very personable. I could see where you probably get along well with the founders. Don't entrepreneurs want that?
They do.
Yeah.
They absolutely do at a certain stage. I think as part of the mixture of the kinds of investors who come in, venture is building a company is a team sport. There will be all kinds of different people on the cap table that join at various parts of the company journey. And I think at a certain stage, and it also depends, Alistair, on the kind of founder. In the back half of last year, the majority of new investments we made were in serial founding teams. And these were, for most part, very successful founding. These were founders who started companies and had serious exits. Could have raised from anyone in the world, could have dictated the terms to the who's who and kept them at bay, go heads down for 12 months, build something, start interacting with the market. And several of these were also in the US, and they wanted the kind of product that we've designed. They wanted this more hands-on go-to-market support because they've been on the kind of hamster wheel of raising money. And don't get me wrong, none of the firms that they were speaking to are bad people. They're all the kinds of people who we're trying to bring into the next round and that we're tight with, and we're whispering into their ears, hey, 3 more months and why don't you come over to London or Berlin and we'll introduce you. I think only for us at the very earliest part of the journey, founders want people who can sit there with them in the trenches. They're on the path of not there yet, and we know that, and we're not giving them a hard time because we have 40 other companies that are on the same path of not there yet. They're kind of wandering around a little bit, and we're much more patient. If an algorithm is deciding whether or not it should like redeem the investment or send a nasty message and give them a hard time, I don't know if founders are going to want that kind of relationship with a VC bot, if any of that makes sense.
VC bot. Yeah, I'm trying to think of names like Bot Ventures. We'll
That's
see
pretty
that
good,
one.
actually. Go get the domain before this goes out.
Yeah, by the time we're done recording, and they'll
Be a bot's
already
listening, and we'll already go buy it for you.
that would be amazing. Yeah, just winding down. What else makes the firm Crane Venture Partners different?
This sounds trite, but we are human first. That's what we look for when we are bringing on new teammates. We're looking, and that's all table stakes, right? At the end of the day, venture capital is not a complex business model. It's a services business. We provide a service to founders and to our LPs, and it's a people business. And if you put the founders first, if you wake up every morning to support them, help them, think of ways to go out of your way to make life easier for them, that's where you can earn, super pro rata in the next round. It's where even when you get off of the board by the series C or D, you might still be the first call that they're making ahead of the board meeting, just to kind of run some good or bad news by you, just for a sense check. And, when things go terribly wrong, as they do all the time with every single company, it's when you are appreciative that you put in the time to build the trust with the founders so you can have those really difficult, hard conversations, because it's probably the hardest thing that they're going through. We all know the life that entrepreneurs live. And if you can be there for them and understand the journey that they're going through and help in a small way, they remember that, and that always comes back and pays dividends.
I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs and I hear their stories and how they met, associates and others, and they were hoping to make a deal. Yeah, you've heard this story many times, I'm sure, as a VC, and they never got over that finish line. I mean, what sort of advice would you have for entrepreneurs who are trying to seal the deal with the investors? Is it pitch deck? Is it just is it a matter of personality? Is it just not the right timing? I mean, what advice would you have?
If your first point of contact with a VC firm is through an associate, they will be your biggest champion. They will be very transparent on what the process looks like for a deal to get over the line. And you're allowed to ask them that, in the same way that you're qualifying your customers, qualify your VCs even harder. Ask about the last investment they made, ask about the last 3 investments they made and when and how big they were, how they met the founders, ask for an intro to those founders, and then use the associate, the principal, leverage them. They will be your biggest champion inside of the firm, and they will, in a way, help get the deal done. Like they'll call you and prep you on what that specific partner wants to hear if that's the way the deal is going, or how to prepare for the final IC. They can give you all that. They'll give you feedback on your deck. So just leverage them. I know a lot of founders want to try and go direct to a partner. Yes, that makes sense. If you can, get an introduction from another founder to the firm. Always best to get one from someone they've backed or someone they've worked with. But even if it's a founder who knows them that they're not invested into, that's a great first step. That is, anytime any founder emails me with an introduction to somebody, I will, my goal is to always be the first one to respond. I have kind of this like mental SLA where and even another VC, if another VC sends me something, I want to respond as quickly as possible. And if it's not a fit for us, I'll tell them immediately, hey, don't want to waste time with us. Best of luck. Or, hey, I recommend go and speak with this person. So yeah, don't lose faith if you feel like you're spending a lot of time with the associate. At a certain point, if you feel like you're kind of turning cycles with them and wasting time, you're allowed to ask, like, what are the final steps from here? Because I'm making progress with these other 3 firms and I really like you guys, but I'm trying to be efficient with my time and I want to whittle it down to the 2 or 3 people that we want to work with by next week. So if you could get back to me by Friday, that would be great.
Well, Scott Sage from Crane Venture Partners, thank you very much for your time. It's fascinating and some great advice for entrepreneurs. Really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Alistair. Good to see you.
That was Scott Sage of Crane Venture Partners. I hope you enjoyed that discussion as I did. So My takeaways, number one, and I can't emphasize this enough, is that venture platforms are more than just putting on events and sourcing talent. They're about providing hands-on and go-to market help. I thought Scott also had some great insights on how early sales are founder-led before the tooling really kicks in, and that AI will push startups and venture firms to operate leaner and smarter. So if this conversation sparked some ideas, please remember to like and subscribe on Substack and YouTube, and share this podcast with a founder or an investor who you think would benefit. That will also help my platform grow. So thanks for listening. Catch you next time.